Hello and welcome to Penny for a Tale. Um, Campside, fireside, trailer side, however you want to put it. We are here to talk about tabletop RPGs in an exhaustive manner, though we will not talk all night. I am Mitchell, host of this whole shindig of Penny for a Tale, and my friends and compatriots will now introduce themselves in the best manner that they can.
Uh, Hi, I am Jen Braces. I am known on the internet as Savage Sparrow. You can find me on Twitch at Savage Sparrow. I also run SavageSparrow.com, which is an awesome site for nerdy uh, uh, meme shirts and various cool things. And I have been gaming for uh, a long time. That's what I got.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Alex Roth. My Twitch handle is Sailor Taco Cat. My name Alex Roth. You can find me on Facebook, and those are the only two places I exist. So you can friend me and find me there. I have been playing tabletop role-playing games since I was about 12 or 13. Um, Picked up my first book at 9. So yeah, I've been playing for a while.
And I'm Walter, and I'm would say I'm probably a little bit more newer to tabletop gaming. Mitchell actually ended up doing a little bit more of the introduction. At the same time, I would say probably closer to a year now that I've started to play. Started with. I don't even remember what was the first game that I played with Mitchell, but before that, I had done some LARPing, and but yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I hopped into LARP in this area, which is the DC area. I saw it on Meetup. It was Vampire for the Mind's Eye Society.
Of course it was.
Yeah, one of the my first check was to strip. Yeah, to strip. My character was stripping down in order to impress the VIP room vampires to let me up into the room. I failed, and thus the GM saved me with his character, and his character was like, "I help him," and he like, so
I don't think I remember that at all. But
I do. I remember it vividly because I came back and my friends were like, "How was it?" And I was like, "I was stripped by someone else." Yeah, first time
So,
LARPing.
was that like a dexterity check or like
Oh
what
man.
what happened there? How
Yeah.
did you fail to remove your clothing?
I
I
think I
just
pulled a
I just
one.
want
Okay.
to I want to understand the mechanics of
Yeah, what happened?
It's
uh
hard. These things are tight, and
um yeah. Oh
clothes
my
are hard.
god. Okay,
Okay.
so what we're hearing is you need to invest in Dacia Serpentis so that way you can free yourself of constrictive grappling.
I think the lesson here is that if you want a player to get really involved in LARPs and tabletop RPGs, first session, make sure they fail a strip check and then strip them down yourself.
I mean, so I
I
was
don't recommend this,
thinking,
Mitchell.
yeah, no.
well, hold on, because that actually has some truth. Because I remember when I kept hearing it about LARPing, and of course that was from Hannah. And it was like, so what did you do? And she's like, yeah, well, see, I was at this like sex dungeon, and they removed my clothes, and then they were doing this, and then I'm like, what? What is this? Show me.
Show me. Tell me more. I am interested.
Well, it goes back to that video, that 8-bit video where they're all like in the their mom's room or whatever, or basement. I don't know. It was nerdy, geeky, and they're like, are there any girls there? If there are, I want to use them.
Oh
So,
God, yeah, the Mountain Dew, that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Oh my god.
early internet like video meme thing.
Yeah.
terrible.
So actually, as you guys introduce yourselves, I was thinking about something. So, Jen, when did you first pick up a book or role played or whatever? When was your first step into all this?
Well, so like as kids, like we didn't do formal pen and paper, actual system role playing, but like I lived out in the middle of nowhere. And we had this like forest on our property, which was awesome. So like me and my brother and my friends, and our cousins and stuff, would always make up these ridiculous adventures and like pretend to be whatever. We'd be kings and queens, we'd be Power Rangers, we'd play Star Wars, whatever. Like it was a lot of just adventures, hanging out and like enacting all these like elaborate dramas and stuff. And then I don't know. I think I started playing D&D when I was like, I don't know, 12 or so or something. I had Oh no, I picked up Baldur's Gate earlier than that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You went straight for the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in do you remember Seiko? Like
Seiko.
the dark days.
I was gonna talk about Thaco, but
Oh god, yeah, the dark times. And like that made me really fall in love with that. And then we had my first tabletop experience was like D&D. I want to say it was either third ed or 3.5. But it was amazing because my friend's dad, our GM who was running it, his dad was obsessed with D&D, and had been collecting everything since the 80s. So his basement was just this awesome shrine of all these fucking minis and shit.
Nice.
So like it was so cool because our GM would be like, okay, so you guys are gonna encounter this random obscure thing, and then he'd walk over to a shelf. It looks like this.
that's a really interesting and good way to learn old school D&D monsters.
Yes.
How to be horrified by all of them.
Yes.
That actually sounds really cool that you had access to all that.
Yeah,
I know, right?
And then it was and then from there I think I started doing like online stuff with like Star Wars and I don't know, I did a couple of forum RPGs and various things, and you go into that dark hole.
What Star Wars RPGs did you do online? Because I did a
Ooh.
whole bunch online.
I don't remember. I was like in an AOL chat room.
Okay.
Once.
Oh yes.
I used
Yeah, like I remember that I was so excited, and I'm like fucking 14, and this is like AOL 8, and like and I'm in the AIM chat room like, yeah, and I get my lightsaber and we do all this shit, and the guy's like, all the bad guys laugh at you because you didn't type that you turn your lightsaber on, and I'm like, fuck this shit. Yeah, so,
been there. Can relate.
Online RPGs were a bit of a learning curve, but we get there.
If you can see, I'm trying to get Walt centered up on the.
I know.
I was like, what is he
fun.
doing?
I'm like, what is going on here?
A little to your right. There we go. Perfect. All right, I need you to like squeeze and hold that spot.
Yeah, don't move.
Yeah.
Mitchell yelled at me last night for
I'm
moving.
gonna see exactly what's in the background right now. So.
This is where you live now.
This is where we are.
Am I the only one who doesn't like Velcro yourselves to the seat? Like you
No.
just like gotta.
I
you're
move when
there.
I role play. Like
I
I'm
just
very
moved here, so it's like my chair just goes and slides everywhere right now.
same.
Oh, that sounds so.
We gotta do that drink shuffle some more.
Oh gosh. So it's interesting because my earliest role playing was in Neopets.
Oh my god, I
man.
forgot about Neopets.
Yeah, we all
Oh,
have.
Neopets.
Holy shit.
The sins I've committed on Neopets, my lack of care for my little
Yeah.
monsters, I should be in prison. They all died.
Hmm.
Malnourishment.
I had a friend who got banned from Neopets.
How do you get banned from Neopets? I guess from like any cheats or.
Yeah, I want to say she was trying to create like I don't remember what it was specifically, but it involved like an enslavement ring for Neopets.
Oh my god.
Weird.
What?
They were just like, this isn't allowed. We don't like this. And she was like, no, my dark edginess. But it was the most like elaborate troll that sadly resulted in a ban that we all laughed horribly because we're terrible people.
Oh yeah. I mean, like the times that kind of like molded me during my tabletop days, and I'm new to this. Like 2012 was when I started, so by the time I saw it, I was already a man.
Get out of here.
Ish. Yeah. That was the first time my friends invited me to a 4th edition D&D game.
You started on 4th?
Yep, that was my first game.
Oof,
I was
okay.
an NPC, and I spent most of my time being tripped that adventure. But something about it, maybe it was
Got you?
yeah, maybe it was the song. What's that? I always get back. What's it?
I kind of enjoyed fourth with the cards that you could make with that
Yeah.
their thing that they had, the fancy like app like thing. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because it was nice having all of my math in little cards. I am a very lazy person.
Yeah.
I
I
have
mean-
no experience whatsoever with 4th. Like I actually with Dungeons and Dragons, I started with 5th. So
Oh my god!
It's a good
It was literally
edition.
Ah!
God.
How am I the like OG here?
I know,
How is that
right?
possible?
I
Jeez.
just remember that with 4th edition, I had fun because I made like a Shadar Kai dual wielding ranger who
Oh
was a
hell
giant
yeah.
tank. Like my dodge was like 29 or something
Yeah. You
dumb.
can have, yeah.
And
stupid.
and then I could also blend into shadows and shit. So like, which it was so fucking dumb because my party was all like, "Hey, wow, we have this super stealth master who's a dodge tank and like can't get hit by anything our DM can throw at us. Let's just Leroy Jenkins into stuff."
Yeah. It's too much Mountain Dew there.
Terrible.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it was almost like a shock because when I think the next system I went from that with Pathfinder, and I kept looking at the book like, where's the app? Like, where's the D&D Beyond? Like, I just put in certain things and it prints me out a character.
so
Yeah.
much easy. That's why I was like, I love D&D Beyond because it was like, oh, look how easy. Because then Mitchell invited me with Hannah and had a Pathfinder, and I'm like, what? What am I doing here? There's so
Yeah.
much to write on these sheets. Give me something easy.
Numbers. What do I do?
I do admit, as an adult, like, I recently I had never played Pathfinder before. That is my nerd shame.
It's
And
okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
I had tried to go into a game like a couple months ago, and I was gonna be like an Avenger or something. One of the Paladin off classes.
Mhm.
And it was like looking through all of the shit. I'm just like, oh my god, I remember why I fucking hate this shit. Like I'm like, oh my god, there's so many. Like I don't like all these options. There's too many spells. Being a spellcaster is the worst. Fuck, I need to go back to being a
That's
rogue.
why I'm a rogue.
Oh man.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot. But it's still like it's one of my favorite systems, but I complain about it a lot. So
Pathfinder,
much.
like Pathfinder for me. So I guess I'll just start. I picked up my first role-playing book when I was about 9. It was at an antique store, and it was the original Star Wars RPG book.
Oh yeah.
From the 70s. It was great. I tried to play it with a neighborhood friend, Dallas, because he's amazing, and we both kind of failed at it. We didn't know what to do with it. It was like we had no concept of any of the rules or mechanics, so we just kind of like, I don't remember what we did. I think maybe I made a character using the mechanics or trying to, and it didn't. We never did anything with it. So fast forward, I am about 13. I'm playing Magic at Wizards of the Coast because that was a thing. um, I was playing Magic at Wizards of the Coast, and there's some guys playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to say it was 3.0. And I was like, how do I do this? I have heard of this, but I have never played it because neither of my parents or anybody at that time was really into it for me. So
Oh no.
I think we lost Alex.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no!
No.
Back.
Well, they did mention that their internet.
what are
wasn't
those
real
dice? I want to
great.
look at your dice. Ooh.
Alex,
go.
Alex, you were MIA for
Oh no!
for like a half a minute, which
Ugh.
I'm sure
Okay.
you like spilled your guts and
I did. I really did. I told everyone like my life story right now. God. Okay. So yeah, my internet's a little shaky. Sorry, guys. I will recap that. Where did I leave off?
I heard magic last.
Magic.
Yeah, you saw dudes playing D&D at the.
Yes.
3.0, you said.
I remember those
Wizards of the Coast.
those old Wizards of the Coast stores. I played Pokemon competitively.
Oh
Aw,
my gosh. I
man.
played Yu-Gi-Oh. I think do we have the Trinity? We have Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh.
I did Pokemon.
Yeah.
We're
I am the
in
weakest
10th
like
grade,
Magic Link.
I did do Magic, but that was only during lunchtime. That's it.
MTG.
night.
Aw, good night.
Nighty night.
Night, Nanny.
Oh man. So sorry about the internet connection. Anyway, was watching people play. I think it was 3.0. And I was really annoying them because I was 13 and I kept asking like, what kind of dice is this? Who like how you play? What do you do? And they wouldn't teach me because I was just annoying and they were jerks.
Yeah.
So eventually I kind of started to pick up what they were doing, but it wasn't until 3.5 did I actually really start to play with any groups regularly and seriously, and that's when I kind of learned everything about the mechanics. And then I had to go back and learn 3.0 and then, advance into and Thaco and all that stuff, which is horrible. No, let no one tell you that Thaco isn't bad. No, it's great. And then I jumped to Pathfinder because Pathfinder at the time was like an amazing thing and people were doing so many like homebrew stuff with it and making up their own games with it. And that was like the engine that really facilitated a lot of creativity for games, not just fantasy. I had played a Pokemon game run on like Pathfinder mechanics. I played a Mega Man campaign, I believe, ran on Pathfinder.
Ooh.
Just a whole bunch of stuff. So Pathfinder has a nice place in my heart, but I haven't touched it in easily 5 years,
Yeah.
especially since 5e came out. I played a little bit of 4, not much, maybe like 1 or 2 campaigns that I can remember. But then 5e came out and I could talk like for hours about 5e because not that I particularly love it. I don't particularly love the mechanics. Like I'm not that big of a fan of it. I just think what it's done for the community is amazing and awesome.
Yeah. So actually, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
Oh,
No.
no, go ahead.
Oh, so actually, I mean that brings up a good point. I mean, the industry has changed in a very drastic way. Critical Role is super popular. They just like raised like 10 mil for an animated series. It's weird because you have people who've watched the show who have never played a tabletop game ever. And I talked to some of these people and I'm like, I don't understand. But 5th edition has kind of moved D&D into a sort of weird mainstream, which hopefully brings the rest of the hobby along with it. But I feel like its simplicity is kind of something that a lot of the industry is kind of moving to. I mean, if you see Pathfinder 2.0. So let's talk a little bit about that. About the current culture of the industry and as well as the I guess my perceived view that these systems are moving into a more streamlined, simplistic system.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the
No,
system, right?
yeah. That's...
What I like about 5e is that I feel like what fourth edition lacked is a focus on roleplay, and it was way more focused on positioning and mechanics. Like everything was like it almost felt like you had to have a reliance on the miniatures, and so many things of like this is completely positional based and less theater of the mind based that the previous editions of D&D had had. And there was also, what I appreciated a lot with fifth edition is that it lifted from like the Dark Heresy first ed book, the idea of like the backgrounds and stuff for your characters and having to pick from like these sorts of things. And I thought that was really cool. So I enjoy that there are more systems that are creating these vehicles for role play and having that take precedence with the mechanics supplementing that. Like it's cool to have crunch and all, and like I enjoy crunch sometimes. But like what I hate is when it's like you need to have 30 books to play this fucking game. Like that's not cool. So I enjoy that we are sort of moving away from that.
I agree a little bit because as someone who's fairly new to tabletop gaming and all that, I do like the simplicity because, for example, if with 5e, I actually ended up being a DM, and it was a lot easier for me to get into. I'm still learning. I haven't really seen Critical Role, but I've seen other things like the Adventure Zone, for example, and it's a lot more RP based. And I do like that because I was able to bring in friends of mine that may not have been interested ever in something like Dungeons and Dragons, but they once they got the chance of really seeing that they can RP and focus on storytelling and things like that, they were at least gave it a try, and some of them got to the point where they do want to continue playing. And one thing that I was hearing Alex saying initially when he met those guys, and they were kind of like, "Hey, don't bother us." I felt like back then they was, even though yes, it was like the nerdy people and the geeky people, and it was clicky. While now I think it's so much more welcoming that I find so many people that want to try this out, and then you mentioned Critical Role has a huge following that because of specifically things like that where you see people playing like Vin Diesel, Terry Crews, and they just have all these names that are bringing other people to tabletop gaming. Sure, they may start with fifth edition, but once they see that there's so much more out there, I think it's welcoming that they have something easy, but then they can progress and try more and more. And they have so many different systems. And I think, honestly, it's helping bring these people out there because if you look at Kickstarter, aren't a lot of the tabletop gaming is one of the top highest grossing products that they have there that people are starting to back pretty much. So I think it's a great thing in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'm gonna definitely jump on at that point because absolutely, I had a really bad and really hard time learning role-playing games because of that culture, because of a very tight-knit gatekeeping community at the time. You're talking late 1990s, early 2000s, when Wizards of the Coast was still the place to go for gaming, at least for me in Middle America. And with systems like 5e, with it being more in the mainstream, you're reaching so many more people that have amazing stories to tell, and that's the heart of like Dungeons and Dragons and of role-playing games in general. And whereas before it was such a tight-lipped, you could really hard to get in if you didn't already have an older brother or a parent that was really into it, which I didn't. It was just very hard to learn and get into the community, and I think that is changing and has changed, and I think that is absolutely important. And even if I know people really don't want, they want to complete Dungeons and Dragons, they don't want to say that it's a good stepping stone, that it should be its own fully fleshed out mechanics wise and have everything that everybody wants, but I still really think that 5e where it might be very streamlined and a little bit simplistic. I think that that is what's needed to get more people interested and more people talking and have bigger, better games and get more stories out there. 'Cause that's what
Definitely.
matters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to participate in the one of the beta tests for 5e at Gen Con. They ran this really amazing event. It was the coolest thing. It was like, I want to say like 15 tables or something. And we were all doing this like crazy assault on like this castle, and there was a dragon. And then it was awesome because the dragon would fly from table to table to table.
Oh
Um,
man.
and it was so cool because, like, you know, you have all of these people playing separately but also together. And it was amazing to see, like, young and old and, like, all, you know, races and genders and everything encompassed in, like, this super easy to pick up and play game. And that's, like, really powerful, I think. And really amazing to see just how far the community has come, just in terms of, like, you know, again, when I started gaming, I was the only girl, and literally referred to as the girl. So I like that that's not a unique thing anymore. You know, I like that there are many girls. That is great.
I love that you said that because honestly, with when I was starting with my game, my whole table are all women. I'm the only guy, and so I think Mitch joined us for one game. You know, it was the other guy there, but really it was like five, no, actually six women and
Mhm.
just me. And man, it's great to see, you know, like having everyone in there. And yeah, it's not a boys club, it's not a girls club, it's everyone. Everyone's invited, and I think that that's what makes this so fantastic.
And I just want to throw out there that for a long time these books have been very expensive. I mean, you can go back and look at the price of I have AD&D copy, and it's like $35, maybe 30, I can't remember. But it's always essentially been on the higher end of price ranges that a lot of people in the past have not been able to get. And with
Yeah.
with publishers putting it out on PDF and for
Oh my
various copies,
gosh.
Mhm.
yes, that is been putting it in people's hands that have not had opportunities to do so before, and that is amazing.
Like drive-through RPG
Yeah,
sales.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, my heart, my kingdom. Cause yeah, I run I have to run, or I've been running some of the New World of Darkness stuff for the MES with their space venue uh for their conventions. And like, I don't want to pay like fucking hundreds of dollars for all those books. Fuck that. Like, I just want to tell stories about nerds in space.
That is my life. That is my goal.
So I
Honestly,
hate that I can get PDFs for the
and they're so much faster to search for things too, you know. So I think with technology, you know, making things so much easier, like you said, getting the PDF files, you can just control F, search for something instead of, all right, it's supposed to be in this page. Because I've seen guys, you know, they have their books and they have all these labels, you know, so like see, make sure to make it go quick. But I'm like, it's so much easier now that it's streamlined and available online.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, between Kickstarter, Drive Through RPG, Bundle of Holding, there are so many games to get that you don't have to break the bank for.
Well, that's something I wanted to talk about too, is just how awesome Kickstarter has become in, you know, just completely revitalizing the indie game community.
Hmm.
It is amazing to see so many different types of RPGs that, like, would never have seen the light of day if not for Kickstarter. And so many things that have just died or like whatever. Because like the game we played last night, that was
Oh, yeah.
Kickstarter funded, right?
Yeah, it was. Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
from the 90s, right? That was
Yeah.
yeah.
Hasn't seen the light of day since the 90s.
Yeah, and like Shadowrun itself had a revival because of Kickstarter, and that's
Mhm.
amazing. So you know, like bringing back old things and bringing us new and strange things is
Yeah.
great.
And like, you get to experience tabletop games from different countries too, which Kickstarter
That
does
is
a
so
really good job of kind of showing off. I know, like, what was it? I don't know if you guys can see it, but I got City of Mist, which is from Israel. At least the guy kind of goes back and forth in between, but it's printed in the Israel format, which kind of makes it look awkward with all the other Western books. Fragged Empire to it's somewhere over there. Fragged Empire is from Australia. The guy who makes that, and Lexicultum, I think Symbarum, those are all from Sweden. So
Yeah.
you get to have
You
all
got
these kind of
Genesis
like,
there too.
yeah, De Genesis is right there. That's Germany.
And then there was that game that we played about the ninjas.
Shinobi Gami, which is
Yeah.
we get to finally experience tabletop games from Japan translated in English for our enjoyment.
I was very surprised how dramatic that game ended. Like that was fantastic. Um, like holy crap! Who knew a game about fucking ninjas would turn into like this like absurd K drama?
Oh yeah. At the end there was so much emotion.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have not played that.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to check that out too.
Yeah.
I know you guys were advertising for a while. It sounds fun. But since you're talking about games too, and from Japan, what was that other game that we played at one time?
Oh, Ryutama. Ryutama. Yeah, Ryutama is the Studio Ghibli meets the Oregon Trail, where there are no mechanics for killing people, but people get knocked out. It's wholesome. It makes you feel fuzzy and warm inside, and it's all about friendship and traveling.
There you go. Something if you have young ones around, that I think that could be a good place to start for them. Start them young.
Yeah, definitely. And like, there's so much diversity right now in terms of what you can play. And I am looking up this one game on Kickstarter, which I thought was really interesting, and it's called One Child's Heart. Let me put the link here for your perusal, those who are watching in chat. But basically, it's a tabletop game about empathy, hope, and human connection in the face of childhood crisis. So the whole thing is that there are these pivotal moments in every child's life that shape who you become. And the game invites the players to take the role of child welfare professionals participating in a new mental health care memory exploration experiment. So it's interesting because 10 years ago, that idea would not have gained any sort of traction. But it's a game that is all about just kind of exploring trauma in young people and helping them through it. Which also kind of like rubs against that area that tabletop is kind of going with, which is kind of therapeutic tabletop gaming. Core Roleplay is another Kickstarter campaign that is out that is specifically tailored for people with autism to help them explore social interactions in a safe environment. So it's just kind of went off topic, but it's awesome to find that the tabletop hobby is kind of exploring all these things, not just for entertainment, but also just to help people out.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a soft topic. I actually think that's exactly where we're going with a lot of the tabletop that are available there. I even had seen how high schools have D&D clubs, and there was an article who was mentioning how this one area that does have quite a bit of Hispanics, and some of them who had just arrived. So English obviously is not their first language. So they ended up making it so that character was an elf, and so it was a noble elf that they didn't really learn how to speak common. So they made the Spanish language Elvish. So there were other characters that were there that would either be half elf or other elves to be able to talk to them in Spanish. And now you have someone who's actually learning English as well and still be a part of the community and grow with it too. So yeah, I think there's so many benefits there, and it's fantastic everything that the community is doing.
I know that similarly, there are some people I know There's a guy I know who runs D&D campaigns for his math students because it's like, hey, look, here's numbers and math. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's a fun way to do that. And then like engaging those problem solving and strategies using math and D&D.
Yeah, I find the whole role playing industry just kind of a refocus of our culture and trying to capture that childish like wonder and creativity that I feel has kind of been lost in the last like decade. And then just definitely, emphasizing inclusivity. 5e had, I think, and I'm not sure, but I know it kind of was pointed out to me when I saw a black character for their human fighter. And it was the first time I saw a person of color in like a tabletop role playing game book. And then since then, I've seen more of that. I mean, Pathfinder 2.0 started using a gender neutral pronoun for their game, which, when I was on some of the chats, people were freaking out about. So there's definitely still that group of people who should just be shunted out of the hobby. But it's nice to see the industry respond to the culture and the type of people we want to be.
Well, if I may plug one of my own projects.
Yes, go ahead. Go for it.
So I'm doing the artwork for Changeling the Lost 2.0 by Night Studios. And it is an open beta right now for people who want to play it.
I want to play it. If anybody runs it, I want to play it.
Do you guys want to do it on the channel? We can have Jin play or run it, or yeah.
I don't want to run it.
Okay, I'll run it.
Yeah, I would love to play it though.
All right.
But basically, what's been really awesome about doing it from the perspective of doing the art is that Jen Childs is the one who's like my handler here. But what was amazing is she's just like, hey, so we're not White Wolf. We really want you to go nuts with having all of the representation here, like every gender, sexuality, race, etc. These are beings of creativity and imagination, and they shouldn't be limited by what you think of as like standard things. So like I've been pulling from like a lot of different cultures and identities and stuff like that. I just recently did a lineup of like the Satyrs, and what was really fun with that was like looking at the ball culture from like the 80s and 90s, to play with those sorts of people refusing to be defined by sexuality and gender and like all of those standard norms, and just really push those limits and boundaries into something like that's cool and just epitomizes that level of freedom of expression. Another thing is there's I think it's the Baku, who are changelings that are they're like objects that awaken, and they were inspired by there's like an image of a teddy bear that is defending his kid from like this crazy demon or whatever. So it's the idea that an object is so loved and thought of as something super powerful, that it takes on a life of its own and awakens as a changeling. So like my idea going with that one that I'm going to be playing with is the idea of like a wheelchair for a kid that isn't a wheelchair in its awakened form. It's like a mech suit or a rocket ship or something of that nature. So instead of being limited by their disability, this kid sees it as like, this is something that makes me powerful and special and cool. Like, this is my superhero outfit, and I think that's what's really something that's really profound and beautiful about role-playing games, is that we can, go and turn these things that we may not be comfortable with about ourselves into stuff that makes us beautiful and special and awesome. So I'm really excited to work on this project.
That is
That's
awesome.
yeah.
And so
That
this
sounds amazing.
is Changeling the which one? The
Dreaming.
Dreaming. Okay, so I'm gonna put it on my to-do list. We are going to run this game using the beta rules sometime, hopefully in the next month, and we'll definitely have Jen with us if she'll join us and lend her expertise. So yeah, that sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So, I know for me that role playing absolutely assisted me with so many things during my adolescence, whether it was gender, whether it was just being different, being one of the only Hispanic kids I knew, um, all of it. I think role playing in a safe place and in a safe context absolutely helps with development, helps with finding who you are, finding your strengths, finding your weaknesses. I was a very quiet kid growing up. I never liked to talk. And when then I have to play somebody like last night with Joshua Katz, who was not at all. And that is actually way out of my comfort zone.
You were on it. You were great.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
that
were.
was amazing.
That is not my comfort zone. I am actually not in person. I am not that loud and not that, that type of person. But role playing has done that for me. Role playing has made me come out of, being a very quiet and reclusive person. Um, and I think that if schools implementing it, I know the Girl Scouts at one point had like a group and had badges for it, and Boy Scouts, I'm sure as well. Um, just it is absolutely a great and safe place and can be
Mhm.
to explore things no matter what age about yourself and about other people.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna hop over to a topic that's related. Recently in Kickstarter, we're seeing a lot of games that are coming from the minority groups in our hobby, blacks as well as Latinos. I've seen two Kickstarters so far. One one is called Cartel, which is coming out later this year, which emphasizes kind of family and organized crime way using the Apocalypse engine. The other one, I believe, is called Narhil. I'm probably butchering it, so don't quote me on that. Where you explore kind of like the old themes of Mexico, about these old legends, and you hunt angels and stuff like that. But not only that, but you're having Afrocentric role-playing source books as well as games come out. And I think a lot of it was kind of inspired and encouraged by the like success and awesomeness of the Black Panther. So with all this stuff kind of coming into the role-playing industry and everything like that, how would you guys encourage someone who might be like the average white male, maybe it's a whole white male group, what would you say to kind of like their exploration of kind of these themes, and these games? Kind of a weird hard topic, but
Yeah,
I'm curious about it.
Well, I mean, I would end up saying that, as long as you reach any of these changes with respect, because I remember the game From Beneath the Seas that we played
Mm-hmm.
some time ago. My character was transgendered,
Mm-hmm.
and but once we're putting in there, I just had to go and stick with the character because it's more than just being Hispanic. It's more than just being transgender. It's you have to go and make sure you're going at it with respect and know that you're playing just another person. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I think that this we're gonna be doing it exactly this way because this is the type of stereotypes we may have. These are type of sorry about the cat.
I love him.
Um,
Cat break, sorry.
so now I got distracted, but it's just it's a lot that I appreciated. For example, I don't know if any of you guys, I'm sure some may have listened to the Adventure Zone, for example, and they had a lot of characters there that, there's some that were transgender themselves, some that were gay, and some that, that they treated with respect, even though they were, like you mentioned, just um, four Caucasian guys
Mm-hmm.
playing, but they're going at it with the mindset of not being disrespectful to that culture, not disrespectful to the person's gender and all that. And I think that that's how they should see it. And it's not just here's a religion or a culture or whatever. And it's just treat it with respect.
Mm-hmm. Alex, Jen?
Um, I I don't know. I don't know how I would randomly approach people, but um, I think I've played with a lot of cis white people before, and there has been. I think it obviously depends on the group, but every time I have sat down at a table or every time that I have been a part of a group, for the most part, there has been an overwhelming sense of welcoming, and other than obviously the first group, but the over sense of welcoming. And I love it when people are interested in the stupid niche history of Mesoamerica, of other countries outside of the traditional European flavor of things. And I can imagine that there are plenty, because there are plenty of awesome legends and awesome histories from Latin America, from various countries in Africa, that absolutely can be amazing to play, no matter what your race is, what your cultural experience, ethnicity are. That there should be no boundaries or borders
Mm-hmm.
for who can play these, because they're interesting. They're all
Mm-hmm.
interesting. um, and I think that in the with newer players, that there is less resistance to picking up something that they might not have, and they might not have as wide of a historical knowledge.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jen?
I mean, I think that it is important to like this is a conversation that we had recently in our LARP with regards to in particular people doing cross gender roleplay.
Mm-hmm.
So like we're having a discussion. So like one of the things that like I would like to see stop are cis men who choose to play female characters solely for the purposes of playing like the super skanks. Because it is inevitably that these characters are lesbians, and inevitably they think it's cool to pursue those agendas against like the out of character attractive female gamers, which is just not cool.
Yeah.
And like it was like I remember being in a conversation with one of these people who was just like, oh yeah, she just spreads her legs for anything. Like all bitches want to spread their legs for so and so, and I'm like, you need to not. So like if you are going to do something a role play a character that is outside of your personal experience, I would advise talking to people who have that experience, because like apart from just reading Wikipedia articles and stuff like that doesn't get you the human experience of what it means to be that gender, that race, that sexuality, etc. Like there are tons of little things that people have to do to survive and to get by, that like you are socialized for. So like I was talking to a friend of mine about just like guy culture or whatever, for example, and he was saying like the thing that he hates when women play male characters is that like there's a lot of the like the way that men are socialized that women just don't get because they are used to, male female interactions being different. So, for example, like one of the female role players was hitting on um, a guy's character in front of him, and trying to pick up his girlfriend, right? So like girl doing so to other girl not threatening, in general, just because again this is societal norms, right? But like other dude picking up dude's girl in front of dude, that's threatening. So like he was gonna go to rounds, like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? And the female role player, and I say female because she identified as female, was like, I don't understand why you're attacking me. This is ridiculous. I'm just flirting and being fun. Like, oh my God. And he's like, no, you're a dude. This isn't okay. So like those little things and again, it's like less important, I think, for tabletop because it's a smaller group of people and there's not as much physicality as there is in LARP.
Yeah.
But like it is definitely something to be mindful, especially when you think of like, some of the more sensitive cultures, like if you are looking to play stuff that's Middle Eastern, for example, with I don't even want to go in there, but like like it's a wonderful and rich culture, but there's so much nuance to it that you can be incredibly disrespectful without even meaning to. So like finding people who have actually lived those experiences and being like, hey, I want to tell this kind of story with this culture and explore these themes. How can I do this without being an asshole? It's a really great way to go about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the bigger hindrances of our culture is a lack of communication and empathy, which, tabletop role playing, LARPing, whatever you're doing, if you make sure you communicate in a very respectful manner, hopefully you won't get off course. But I think, my wife has experienced this in terms of when we play a sit down for a tabletop game and there's a rules question and then they ask me and I'm like, she knows more than me, so why do you automatically look at me?
Yeah.
Or in other groups, there's that tendency for men to kind of look at each other in terms of trying to seek answers for rules calls or something like that, which is something, guys, we gotta push past that. That has to stop, like now, yesterday, last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's like it's a funny thing too, where like I notice a lot because I am a feminine person with a high voice, and that in LARP and games, people think because I'm nice and I smile, that means they can push me around, which is great because I am the most stabby. Like I remember, Mitchell, you would have fucking loved it. Like this motherfucker at one of our mess games. I was like, listen, you are violating this edict. And he goes, oh, honey, I know you're new to this round. I'm like, bitch.
Yeah, I think that should just be the new movement. Whenever honey is mentioned in a derogatory way towards women, we're in rounds. Just everyone.
It was so good because it was literally like the case where like there were two girls next to me also who were like, ah! So I'm like, yeah, okay, I feel good about making that call.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a point where we can like ask so if there is a situation in a game, how have you, any of you, or Mitchell who has run game, anybody who's run game, how have you confronted people who have been not respectful or maybe just obviously didn't know that they were being disrespectful to a culture or something, or just being an asshole? How do we in the community stop that? How do we, confront it in a way that's both, that's giving, showing that it's not correct, and that maybe educating them, giving them, if they deserve it, a chance for reform, or just booting them right out.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean I will address this with the last example that I gave, which is basically that, like, because this is a thing that I talk about a lot, because I have I've been on the coordinator staff for the Mind's Eye Society, and was writing like a lot of helping to write some of the policies and stuff like that for inclusiveness and better working on our language to make a safer gaming community. But I think that you need to have the conversation start with basically like, look, I understand that this was not your intention to come across in this way. But you need to understand that when you use words like X, Y, or Z, or when you engage in acts like this, or this, or when you look at this type of stereotype, these are very common things that are seen as derogatory for this specific group or culture or whatever. This is not to shame you. This is not to, put a mark on your character. As again, like it is important to acknowledge that there is a difference between ignorance and malice, I believe, because when it's okay to be ignorant, because that is something that is a correctable thing. But when it is done from a place of malice, that is when you eat them to the moon.
Yeet.
But see, with
That's what kids say.
something like that too, one thing that I learned in the military was, try to set them to the side too, because I don't think, especially if we're trying to correct it, and if it's been like a first offense, it should be, hopefully one-on-one, be able to have a respectful conversation with that individual, to let them know. Because the problem is, if you go and you do bring it out in public right away with everyone there, then they'll feel that they're attacking, they're the ones that are being attacked. And we don't want that. We want to go ahead and have that, like I mentioned, that inclusion, or like Jen mentioned, that inclusion too. And so it's difficult, but you do want to, one, at least tell someone, hey, this is what I'm going to end up doing. We're going to talk, just in case if it goes wrong, if they don't accept the conversation, then it can, continue on to a little bit further. But I do think it's important, do address the individual respectfully, like you mentioned. If it is something like ignorance, you can correct that, and you can have a good conversation about it. Otherwise, if it does become a problem that keeps going, people already know that it was addressed once, and so therefore this individual is just being an asshat at that point. And the cat agrees.
Oh, yeah,
Cat's like, I'll cut him up.
With the thing where we called rounds on the dude for doing the oh honey thing, like that, after that game, like we had to sit down with that player of like, hey, so like this is why all of the women got mad. And again, we know that this wasn't your intention, but like this is a thing that happens a lot, and it is important to be mindful of your fellow role players and these common, like, microaggressive things that like people have to deal with on their daily lives. And it is cool if you want to have this as a character flaw, so long as you as a player are aware that this is how this comes off.
Yeah, what that excuse of like it's a part of my character.
Oh.
That opens up the treasure trove, especially for MES players and White Wolf players. Like that opens the lid.
I am fine with motherfuckers who want to say that's their character, because that means that I am fine to beat the shit out of those characters. Because then it comes down to like, oh look, my dots are better than yours.
Yeah, that was always a fun part of the MES, is using kind of correcting assholes with in-character repercussions. Because, hey, if you're going to be a dick out of character, I'm going to be a dick to you. So, So that was some good talking right there. I feel like we
Yeah, we
covered
did some
a lot of
stuff.
good stuff.
Yay.
Look at us go. Um, so I think what I like to say is you know we always want to encourage people to explore avenues that you're not comfortable with. Encourage people to play races that they don't identify as, genders as they identify as, sexual preferences, anything and everything. Tabletop role playing games and LARP is a great avenue to explore these and kind of gain empathy and a different perspective that not only will help you in like your experience, but also help you in general with life. Um, but you know, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, be humble enough to accept criticism from other people because they have a perspective that is different from yours. And then don't always get super defensive when they come and they have that that first warning like, hey, you went too far.
Yeah.
Accept that we are human, we are going to fall. It is nothing against you if it's like the first or second time. Just do your best to correct it, communicate to these people, and show them that you honestly just want to experience and appreciate them or a different type of culture, what have you, in a different light.
At the end of the day, everyone around the table should be your friend.
Exactly, and I mean that's the basis of tabletop role playing and LARPing is building communities and then becoming friends. Because all of these people I've met via these hobbies, and if I didn't, I don't know. I don't know if I would have friends or I would be hanging out with people at Waffle House. Who knows? It's a bad crowd there.
It's a bad crowd. Bad Waffle House crowd.
You see me in the shirt and everything with a spatula like off on the side, like, yo, give me your money.
Give me a waffle, bitch.
Give me your waffle. I want it buttery. All right, so we are going to take a quick 5-minute break. And then we definitely plan on ending at 10:30. But what we want from the people viewing, if you guys don't mind, please put questions, your own experiences and stuff like that. We'd love to kind of interact with you and talk about the things that you guys want to. And we'll also read out the things that you guys have experienced just so everyone can see and we can exchange in that way. So what did I say, 10 or 5 minutes?
We can do 5 minutes.
Yeah,
5.
let's do 5 minutes. All right, 5 minutes from now will be a break. Love you
Oh, the
guys.
cat.
Don't
The
die.
cats.
Bye. Hello, we are back from our break, mostly intact. So thank you guys again for waiting, and appreciate you guys coming and enjoying this kind of campfire talk with us during this time. Uh, yeah. So we have one question from our friend, who I am just gonna butcher in terms of the name, Leompia
Olympia.
Olympia 90. And the question is, any tips slash things you wish people told you before playing any of the tabletop games you play today?
You're gonna spend a lot of goddamn money on this. I wish 9-year-old me had known.
Yeah, I should have went into more lucrative fields.
God, yeah.
I mean, so something that I humongously failed at when I first started playing, and it came from a LARPing, and then it went into my tabletopping. Um, I was focused on the game, and I was not keeping my eyes and ears open to everyone's feelings. But more importantly, just identifying when I'm rubbing up wrongly or agitating people. I'm a pretty aggressive player at times. In the beginning, I did a lot of PvP at tabletop games. In LARP, I was huge into PvP, and so kind of having that bad foundation, it took a while for me to take a step back, and I'm still working on it. Like I'm in no way have this solved. But when I come to a table, trying to have more of a give and take, as well as trying to make sure that everyone's okay, that no one is upset, and that by the end of it, everyone are still friends, no matter what's happening in the game. So that's probably the biggest tip I have, and once again, it's something I still struggle with, but you know, it's a journey. How about you guys?
So I guess I'll build on that. I have two. The first one is, it is common for your first character to be like a hero power fantasy kind of thing, right? Like you are the greatest and best at all things. But like a thing that you'll come to find pretty quickly is that the game gets really boring when you're the greatest and best at everything. And that failure is incredibly important to a successful character, and to just a way more fun gaming experience. Because like when you think about all of your favorite stories, like all of your favorite comics and films, etc., like there are always low points for those heroes where everything is terrible. And then it's all about the struggle to get back up and overcome those things. So, like, really, I think what's important is to embrace failure as much as you embrace success, embrace your flaws as much as you embrace your strengths, because that is where you will have the most fun in telling stories. And similarly, like Mitchell said, like my other thing is that when you're sitting around a table, it is not just about you. It is about your fellow role players around this table. And it is about, as well as like the person who is delivering this experience for you as the storyteller. So, like, really listening and adapting in, and recognizing that you don't always have to be the center of attention or the person doing
Mhm.
all the things in order to have a good time. you know uh, uh, Work, like any other sort of social dynamic, like look for where you fit in with that niche, and with your character, and when you can help your friends shine in the same way, like that feels incredibly amazing too. And it's really cool when you guys all can make an awesome story together. Um, it's a really profound and beautiful experience, and it really binds you together in general. And that's what keeps everybody inviting you back. It's, oh my
Hmm.
god, like she gave me this really cool moment.
That's true.
Yeah, I think we all live for those really cool like LARPing moments and role playing moments. And I'm sure we all have like a one moment thing where we're like, "Oh man, that was like the best scene. I was totally invested in that." And yeah, so I think just mine would be to push the envelope with characters that you're not comfortable with necessarily. Um Playing things that are out of your comfort zone as much as you can. Um and listening to others. I think that's been a reoccurring theme with this has been listening to others. Um, but maintain. You want to obviously listen to all the input that other people are giving you, but maintain your own sights for your character. Try not to let other people sway you on how they think your character should react. You're playing your character how you envision them, and although people might have various opinions of how they think you should be playing your character, you know how you're made your character, you know what you want to do with that. So because I struggled a lot with self-confidence in the beginning, not knowing maybe all the rules, maybe not knowing entire systems, um, and all the options available. So I would tend to build one character over and over and over again because I knew how to play them over and over and over again. But yeah, like Jen said, that gets boring. That gets boring really really fast, and it's the characters that you push yourself for and the characters that have a lot of flaws that end up being some of the best characters, because you end up being invested, because guess what, we all have flaws. We
Yeah.
all have flaws, and it ends up being that you can work with those characters better. At least I have found that. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say pretty much what everyone has been saying here is like, don't be afraid of trying something new, but at the same time, don't be afraid to ask questions. Especially with whoever is running the game. A lot of times that you have people who say it's like, well, it's the DM versus the players or GM versus the player. It's not. It is all collaborative. So you want to make sure if you have questions, even while you're in the game, don't be afraid, if asking about it. It's not a stupid question. You don't know, and you want to make sure that you're doing things correctly. Or, if even if you want to do something that's going to be super cool, like they mentioned before, it's going to have that moment. Maybe that's because you asked that question, you're going to try something new that you probably wouldn't even have, and have fun. Really, I mean, that's what the whole in the end, that's what we're doing. It's just a time to have fun, relax, and you know not even really being yourself, but be someone new and explore that and enjoy life with it too. So I would say that would be it for me.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our sit down fireside. There's a fire somewhere here, I promise you. Kind of. Yeah, yeah. And Determined Nerd says, make a character. Don't just play a version of yourself until you're ready. Character bleed can be a bitch. So something
oh
to
yeah,
think about.
character bleed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But more to talk about at another time, and I
Yes.
will make sure we do this more often because it sounds like everyone had a good time. I know I did.
Mhm.
So things you can look forward to for Penny for a Tale. I have officially put the docket of Changeling the Dreaming, and we will definitely be playing that sometime in the near future. Also, we have a couple of things coming out, not next week, but the following week. You'll find that on my Facebook page, Penny for a Tale. Also, I use my own page. I'm sure I've annoyed many of you guys with it, with what I'm up to and what Penny for a Tale is doing. As always, you can find me on Twitch for Penny for a Tale, as well as Twitter, though I believe that instead of FOR, it is a number 4. So check me out on all those avenues. Tomorrow I will be chatting with Tanker Talk around 3:30, 4 p.m. We'll be discussing about some of the games we are playing, including Relics, a game of Angels, which is a hell of a good time. And then Monday at 8 p.m. I will be running Relics on the Tanker Talk channel. So those are my plugs. I hope to see you guys again. And Jen, why don't you say your goodbyes?
Oh, okay. Bye, everybody. I am Jen Brazis, known as Savage Sparrow on the internet. You can find me on all of the internet social medias as Savage Sparrow, except for Instagram, where I am Savage Sparrow 666. I have a Twitch channel. We do a D&D stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. And I also run an awesome internet store called savagesparrow.com, where you can purchase cool nerdy shirts and other apparel. And finally, Changelings Are Dreaming. I'm doing the art. It's gonna be great.
Gonna be awesome. All right, Alex.
All right. I'm Alex Roth. My Twitch handle is Sailor Taco Cat. You can find me on Facebook or here. I exist nowhere else. But if you are, I am open for some games. Actually, my gaming schedule is not that heavy right now. So if you're looking for a player, hit me up in my DMs. If not, I will probably be playing another game here. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
maybe?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Definitely.
okay.
Definitely. You're hired.
So yeah, look for me there. Look for me here.
All right. Well.
I'm Walter, and I don't really have much in the terms of social media, so this is it for me. And yep, sometimes I guess we'll find me here too with Mitchell, and hopefully we'll get back now that I finally moved, get some scheduling to join another of the games, and hope to see you there.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Expect more better things now that I got a new rig and all the streaming is going great. This has been a great week, and it has been an absolute pleasure sharing these experiences with you guys as well as the community by and large. You guys have a wonderful night and hope to see you guys again sometime soon. Bye.